Okay, here's a new one. Since we did the Alexander the Great, or the accomplishment in his death here recently, I want to go into a little bit more detail on his death and some of the things that were said about it, and something that people are saying about it now. About the last 35 years, I've heard about 10, 12 different variations on a theme of what possibly he died from. People will tell you that it's from poison, like perhaps he was given to drink gave him a poison and stuff. Somebody had even relented that he had given some type of toxin that almost made him paralyzed, and said some crap about him too, about it, and that he had this giant fever, and that the fever might have been induced from the wound that was on him, and so on. And this is when he's talking to him, apparently just before he gets sick. You can tell, you can look into the crowd here too, and it seems to be an odd podge group of people, all the way from like a Carthaginian and Trojans, and this dude's almost elfinish. He has a beard, but he's about the only two that have a beard at all. It's said that he made his people shave their beards off, and they became real mad about it because having no beard was a sign of being effeminate or a youth. But other people have made the conjecture that he did so they all looked like a young army, although some were some older people, and also that he would easily discern who was who in the fit of battle whenever they were going to fight, and so on. Some people said that it was only certain regiments he did it to, and so on, like the cavalry, because it said that you would grab each other by the beard sometimes and pull each other off the horses or something like this. And all these conjectures are made out of it and stuff. So I just wanted to look into this and what they're telling here. You can tell he's in a tent type setup here, and it's got that Phoenician purple above him, and the symbology that you can even see in like Baalbek and stuff on this ancient deal. Well, here's the story. Alexander the Great wasn't dead, but was paralyzed, suggests a scientist. Now, after Alexander the Great died, his followers are said to have marveled at how his body failed to decompose, regarding it as proof that this most feted warrior king was now king of kings, having taken that role, was a god. And indeed, he was to be inducted to as being a god. You know that the ancient Greeks were seen as being a god in some way. The rulers of those of people, and the Caesars and so on, were deified as a god, as the Egyptians were seen to be God's effects on earth. In fact, to this day, we seem to look at the Pope as being somewhat like the representative of Jesus on this earth. So it's nothing any too different or pagan to look at this, or maybe it is a little pagan to look at our current belief system too. In retrospective, when you see everything surrounding it was pretty much the same thing, but somehow through the ages got real picky and turned into kind of what we have today, which is an odd blend. But if you look at some of my other videos, can show you, but I don't want to get too off in left field of it. But they believe there's this stuff called Guillain-Barré syndrome, and other people believe there could be a toxic syndrome that could be related to this also. And some odd things about that. He didn't compose, by the way. It's said that he didn't decompose. He didn't start rotting and stuff, and indeed they kept him for a while, and then he had gone back home. And if you looked at my last video on it, it shows that he did kind of go, pretend the map's here, but he did kind of go up the Tigris-Euphrates, over and down, and instead of being able to go up to Macedonia, he was absconded at that point in his golden sarcophagus and taken all the way down into Egypt, into Alexandria, and then nobody knows what happened to his tomb to this day. But I'm also about to show you in a video that some people believe that he may have even come to the Americas. But we're looking at a lot of far-fetched things now, but there's certain proofs for certain things, and there's certain proofs for this too. That's why we're looking at it here, I guess. But some strange stories come out of it, and there must be 10 or 12 that are kind of unique if you look into it. One I'd like to mention is that it's said that after he was declared as being dead, that 3 days later, that there was a woman mourner that was walked into the room where he was, and apparently she was supposed to anoint or do something, or replenish incense, something along this line. Anyhow, so she came in to do so, and he wasn't in the bed. and that she kind of freaked out. But then it's kind of dark in there, and off in the corner of the room was somebody standing, and it startled her. And then the person walked out of the shadows more to where she could see him, and that it was him, and that he was nude, and that she could see the scar on his body from where he had been attacked here recently off in India before he'd come back and had a scar. And of course, a lot of people think that scar maybe have reactivated and he got an infection from that and it led him. But she was unassured at that point and kind of startled, and he wasn't in the bed like he was supposed to be. And of course, he's dead, so it's like, what the hell? And he spoke her name, and when he spoke her name, she knew it was him. She ran out to go tell the people. Whenever they came back, he was laying in his deathbed and never moved again, and they didn't believe her story. And you know what's strange about that is he died when he's 32 here, and died in a forever young type situation. And the oddness of that was that it was 3 days later, and that sounds kind of biblical. And he showed himself to a lady, and that's kind of odd. And she saw the wound, and then when he spoke her name, she knew who he was, but didn't know before. And that just sounds so much like the biblical style of tale. I don't have it exactly down word for word, people, but anyhow, let's just go into this here and show you this. After Alexander the Great, though, died, his followers said that his body failed to decompose, regarding it as the proof that he was divine. Another explanation has now emerged, though. She's saying, well, he wasn't dead. The cause of Alexander's demise in Babylon 323 BC at the age of 32 has been debated for centuries, with explanations including alcoholism, poison, even getting typhoid, his wound getting reopened, like I said, and getting an infection into it. They even said that because he was in Babylon, and Babylon used to believe in evil winds that brought things, that this had done this to him, and it was the curse of Babylon. Of course, this was much later. Anyhow, a new analysis of the modern medical literature and ancient accounts has kind of pushed these theories aside, arguing instead that he perished from a rare autoimmune disorder that left him paralyzed. Catherine Hall of the Dunedin School of Medicine in New Zealand suggests that Alexander's staff failed to recognize for nearly a week that he was still alive, and therefore there was the accounts that he hadn't perished, because people would start, decomposing instantly after they perished and sinking in and doing things, and he looked like he was sleeping. In fact, that's another thing that it said in the thing. He looked like he was just sleeping. And they even make an account of it whenever they say that he went to, whenever she had said these things, and he went, man, I thought there was more to this. Sorry, guys. But the strange account was that whenever they came in and he was dead and blah, blah, blah and everything, but there he was, the young man, and it kind of says something about how he looked like he was just sleeping, but he was dead. And so they kind of verified it. You can see that here, this guy is kind of like helping to prop him up in some way. So, yeah, it's kind of strange. Just a story I thought I'd relate to you, and a couple of things that I could add to it a little bit. But yeah, Alexander the Great. Few people in history got to get the name the Great, and he was one of them. Like, share, and subscribe, and enjoy. Peace.